PS4 vs Xbox One controller, which is better for PC gaming. With the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One release came two new controllers, the DualShock 4 and the Xbox One wireless controller. Gamers, especially PC gamers, praise both controllers. The DualShock 4 overhauled the traditional PlayStation controller, while the Xbox One controller was a slight but necessary improvement of the Xbox 360 controller's design. On the surface, the DualShock 4 and Xbox One controller are relatively similar. Both controllers have directional pads, 2 thumbsticks, 2 triggers, and 4 face buttons. They are also Bluetooth controllers. For PC gamers, choosing between these two controllers might be a difficult decision. Both have their pros and cons, and getting your hands on one is difficult due to the coronavirus pandemic. On top of supply shortages, pricing may factor into your decision. In this video, we are going to tell you which is better for PC gaming. The video is going to be amazing, so make sure you stick to the end. Before starting the video, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to never miss out on any of our videos. Now let's get started. The DualShock 4. Sony's controller design has barely changed over the years. The very first DualShock controller is nearly identical to the previous generation's DualShock 3 at first glance. This was viewed as something of an if it's not broken, don't fix it approach on Sony's part. However, the latest DualShock 4 controller has indeed proven that there is still room for growth. This is particularly evident from the refreshed design and several convenient new features. As can be seen from the above picture, the DualShock 4 is a bit bigger and sports a much sleeker design than its predecessor, while also being more ergonomic. In terms of functionality, it is superior in nearly every regard. It includes smaller and more responsive analog sticks, much more comfortable triggers, a headphone jack, a built-in mono speaker, and a touchpad. It also swaps Sony's 6-axis motion detection technology for a much more reliable gyroscope and accelerometer combination. The Xbox One controller. Microsoft's latest controller is a much subtler improvement than its predecessor, the Xbox 360 controller. The latter was often hailed as one of the best controllers of all time, especially for PC. But Microsoft stuck with the tried and tested formula for the 360 successor as well. The Xbox One controller appears less bulky than the 360 one, while also adopting a much cleaner and more subtle design. It gets rid of the 360 controller's colorful and conspicuous buttons and introduces a couple of practical changes too. In the Xbox One controller, the shoulder buttons are more responsive, the triggers are larger and more comfortable, the thumbsticks are micro-textured to provide better stability, and the lower weight makes the controller much more comfortable to hold. The biggest additions were a headphone jack and a completely redesigned D-pad, which was the Xbox 360 controller's biggest flaw. DualShock 4 vs Xbox One controller. 1. The design. Each controller's design should be viewed from two standpoints: how aesthetic it is and how ergonomic it is. In terms of visual appeal, one can hardly determine which one of these is superior since it is mostly a matter of preference. Both controllers give off an impression of quality, although the DualShock 4 leans towards a more futuristic feel, while the Xbox One controller is a lot more minimal in its design. As for the ergonomic qualities, the two controllers are on even terms here as well. They both fit comfortably in the user's hands with micro-textured grips and without any discernible difference in the overall weight. However, the Xbox One controller is the heavier of the two. It is worth noting, though, that Microsoft offers many more variations in terms of exterior, as well as the option for users to design their own controller. 2. The directional pad. One major difference between the two controllers is the directional pad. On the DualShock 4, the D-pad is one button divided into 4 separate directions. It is also larger than the previous PlayStation controller D-pad. The DualShock 4's D-pad design ensures that no matter what directional button you press, it will register the correct button input. On the Xbox One controller, the D-pad is just one button that locks the DualShock 4's separate directions. The Xbox One's directional pad is a huge improvement over the Xbox 360 controller, but it is not perfect. The redesigned D-pad makes loud clicking noises whenever pressed and can lead to incorrect input since the pad is one giant button. If you were to press the bottom button slightly to the left, the Xbox One controller might recognize this as a diagonal button input rather than a down input. This unreliability creates inaccurate movements that can prevent the controller from being compatible with games that use 2D. 3. The thumbsticks. The most important components of a controller are its thumbstick. Both controllers have great pairs of thumbsticks, but they are placed in different positions. The DualShock 4 has its thumbsticks placed right next to each other, while the Xbox One controllers are placed asymmetrically. Some players find the DualShock 4's thumbstick placement preferable to the Xbox One controllers because the thumbsticks are much closer together. Another difference between the controller's thumbsticks is their design. The Xbox One controller has more efficient thumbsticks than the DualShock 4 due to the texture. This small but effective feature makes it difficult for your thumbs to slip off the controller. The DualShock 4 features a similar design, but it is less effective. Your finger can constantly slide off one of the thumbsticks and hit the controller's touchpad, resulting in an unwanted button input. The thumbsticks themselves can be more responsive and precise than the Xbox One's thumbsticks, but the rubber coating of the DualShock 4's thumbsticks is very cheap and may come apart after a few months of use. 4. The triggers. During the Xbox 360 and PS3 days, gamers constantly criticized the PS3 controller for its poor triggers. These triggers were uncomfortable to press down on and were outclassed by the Xbox 360 controller's triggers. With the release of the DualShock 4 and Xbox One controller, the triggers for both controllers have been improved considerably. The DualShock 4 had a lot to prove with its trigger design, and it did not disappoint. The triggers now have a thinner edge and are faster to press, leading to quicker reaction times when playing shooters. They are also comfortable to press, meaning your fingers won't hurt from using them. The triggers of the Xbox One controller are just as comfortable, thanks to their redesign. They are now bigger and more comfortable to use. The triggers also have a slope design on their side, meaning you don't have to touch the top of the trigger to press down on it. Pressing down on the side of the trigger is much faster than pressing the top down. Unlike the DualShock 4, these triggers feature haptic feedback, which creates a more immersive gaming experience. Various features. The most noticeable visual difference between the controllers is the Xbox One controller lacks a touchpad. Sony's DualShock 4 touchpad is a large, touch-enabled button, reminiscent of a laptop trackpad. In some cases, the touchpad acts as several button inputs. If a DualShock 4 is used on a PC, the touchpad can be used as a mouse replacement. Another difference between the two controllers is the DualShock 4's motion controls. Inside the DualShock 4 are a gyroscope and accelerometer. These components allow the user to aim using the controller. This feature works in games like Rogue Company and Fortnite. If you want to connect a headset to either controller, you can use the headphone jack on both controllers. To use the wireless Bluetooth connection of a DualShock 4 controller, you will need a Sony Bluetooth adapter. The Xbox One also requires a Bluetooth adapter, but it works with any Bluetooth adapter. One of the most significant differences between the two controllers is their battery life. The Xbox One controller lasts up to 40 hours when powered by AA batteries. The Xbox Play and Charge kit make the controller rechargeable, but the battery life decreases to 30 hours. The Play and Charge kit's battery life can also decrease over time. The DualShock 4 controller has a rechargeable battery that lasts between 4 and 8 hours, which is significantly less than the Xbox One controller. The winner. The Xbox One controller and DualShock 4 are both great controllers, but in the end, the Xbox One controller is better for PC gaming. The DualShock 4 isn't bad, but the fact that it has such a short battery life and its thumbstick covers fall apart so easily makes it inferior to the Xbox One controller. The Xbox One controller has a 40-hour battery life, superior triggers, and better thumbstick placement and texture, making it the perfect fit for PC gaming. Click on the links given in the description to buy these products. Thank you guys for watching. Let us know your favorite gaming controller in the comments section. This was all for today. Hope you liked the video. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stay safe, and we will be back soon with another video.